Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome back to What Catholic School Didn't Teach You, where we talk about the messiness of the Catholic faith and address topics that aren't discussed enough in our community. My name is Katie.
And I'm Jillian, and I'm so happy to be back again.
Woo, 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 woo. How you doing, Jill?
Yes, I am doing good. I
How was your
am
trip?
tired. It was good. So last week I did a service trip with my students. We went to Appalachia Service Project was the organization we worked with. So we were in Tennessee slash Virginia. Honestly, I don't know when we were in each portion, but we were on the border of both. So we were there for the week and we had a group of 11 students and we broke up into two groups. My group helped repurpose or to fix a person's steps and like landing of their deck, and the other group re put down flooring and stuff. I'm not a expert in this by any means, so it was definitely a humbling experience, but I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the time with the students. It definitely had reinvigorated my faith and love in service, which I was really grateful for because I think I've been very burnt out and kind of confused on where my path is vocationally. So this was a really nice reminder of what I love to do and who I love to do it with, and just to be able to serve one another. The saying of that you can find yourself when you lose yourself in the service of others.
Hmm.
And I definitely feel like that's what happened for me this week. Although I wish it happened a little closer to home and not a 12-hour van ride. But and but it's okay. I love driving those 15 passengers. Felt like a boss. And now I drive my little Kia Soul, which is a very jarring difference in vehicles. But I love Frederick. It's the name of my car. So super fun.
That's
Katie, how have
awesome.
you been?
Good. I've been good. We had a bachelorette party this weekend for our dear friend Abby. Congrats,
Yay.
Abby, longtime listener. Um,
Will eventually
and
be a guest.
hopefully. And yeah, we were in New York City. I've never been to New York City, so this was a
That's
really
wild.
great. I know, that's
You-
what everybody has said. More of a Boston girl myself, so Red
Yeah.
Sox fan. I can't go. I didn't think they'd let me.
Did anyone throw anything at you?
No, I didn't wear my Red Sox hat because I was
Smart,
a
smart.
coward. I was a coward. I wore my
We went
Portland
around.
I wore my Portland Sea Dogs hat instead.
Okay,
Um
that's fair.
yeah. But it was a lot of fun. We went to like one of the bathhouses and we went to a karaoke room. We went out to dinner. It
Did
was
you sing any
really,
songs?
oh, you know I did. You know I did.
Can you give us all a little
I'm not
sample?
I'm not gonna sing for you. No, I'm not gonna do
I
that
tried,
here.
people. I tried.
But it was a blast. Yeah, it was a really good time. And
Oh,
now I'm back home and I'm very happy to be in my bed. This is kind of like, I'm 30 now and there was a futon
yeah.
in our room and my friends were like, you can sleep in the futon or you can share a bed. And I hate sharing a bed. So I was like, I'll sleep on the futon. I can sleep on a futon. And it turns out you can't sleep on a futon when you're 30 anymore.
Your back tells you otherwise.
Last night I was sitting on the bus on my way home and I was like, man, I need to stop. This is it. This was the
Yeah.
end of my and I love sleeping on a couch, so it's so sad.
Yeah.
It's like
You
my
do love a
favorite.
good couch nap,
Love a
couch
couch
sleep.
sleep.
Yeah.
And so I think that was the last hurrah for my couch sleeping days,
I
which was
feel
sad.
that. I feel that deeply for this week. I shared a room with 9 college women and myself on bunk beds. So I can't even tell you the last time I was on a bunk bed. But
That's
at first,
insane.
they put my butt up in the air, and I said, "That's cute.
I was about to say, were
Someone
you at the
switching
top
with
or the
me."
bottom?
Back in the day, I used to really like the top bunk because if that thing collapsed, then I wouldn't get smushed.
Sure.
But
Yeah, safety first.
I can't climb. I'm 31. I can't climb. Are you kidding me? I walked in. I was like, no, we're gonna fix this. They all just like stared at me and was really quiet. I was like, yeah, we're gonna have to fix this. And I shared a bathroom with 19 college girls.
No, I'm
So
okay. I'm okay.
to say that I have just really enjoyed being in the quiet and being alone with my puppy and Richard has been
And
fantastic.
bathroom, personal bathroom.
Yes, personal bathroom, a king size bed. Oh,
Yeah,
man,
it's very nice.
living the
Luxury.
dream. Living the dream.
So today we thought we would talk about social media and how that can help or hinder our faith life.
I was talking with a lot of students, obviously, because that's all I could do over the last week. And really, even just social medias and even just our phones in general, I think is really something that I need to remind myself of my usage and how to make sure that being present to people that are in front of me is made priority over my phone. When I did my year of service with the Jesuit Volunteer Corps, I living in community was one of the pillars of the whole experience. So at one point, we had constituted this idea that we will leave our phones in our rooms so that when we are downstairs and with each other, that we're not allowing our phones to get in the way of community time. And I did
Hmm.
really good with that. I really enjoyed kind of just letting my phone not take over our lives. I think it's really hard that we pretty much have computers in our pockets 24/7 at our
Sure.
disposal, which in some ways is wonderful. I wouldn't be able to drive around anywhere without my phone because I have no sense of direction. So even just things like that, or having a question, not knowing the answer, of being like, oh, I can just look it up,
Hmm.
comes in handy. But I think it's important that we don't allow social media or our phones or, all of that together to take away or replace being in community in person with people. I
Hmm.
think with the pandemic, it became a wonderful gift to us to be able to have Zoom hangouts with people. I got to be able to share my wedding with all the people I love because it was able to be live streamed at a
Sure.
time. I got married in June of 2020. So it was like still kind of people were outside ish, but my entire family, besides my parents and my brother, weren't able to come. So it was a way that we could all still experience this life, this milestone for me without them actually being there. So I'll always be grateful for the way that technology and media were able to connect us in a time that we weren't physically able to. But now I've seen, working in a college, that students or just people in general, because I can fall into this category myself, will just stay in their dorms and not want
Mhm.
to be as present and get involved in the same ways that they used to. And that definitely is a hindrance in community one, but also I think there's no coincidence in the spike of mental health issues that we're seeing versus students just kind of locking themselves in their rooms and not coming out and not making friends and being afraid to put themselves out there. I think there's a huge correlation between the two that I think we need to pay a lot of attention to on how to, yes, being alone and recharging is super important, but where do we find that balance of still finding joy in and importance in online community, but also making sure we're feeding ourselves in the terms of human contact.
Hmm. Yeah. And we talked a lot about this, I feel like, in grad school, as this was on the rise, which is kind of crazy to think that 8 years ago was when it was on the rise.
Yeah.
But how do we differentiate between social media being a tool versus social media becoming the community, right? A tool for
Hmm.
community versus becoming the community.
Right.
And I also don't necessarily know that it's always a bad thing when it becomes the community. I don't actually know if you'd consider it social media, but like Jake plays video games with his friends once a week, and that's how they keep in touch. And that's, you know, his friends from high school. They've been friends since they were 14. And that's how they catch up with one another and make sure everybody's doing okay and just like to hear each other's voice.
Hmm.
I guess phone calls do the same thing, but
Right.
it's kind of fun to be doing an activity together
Right.
while you're so far away, right? Two of our sons are in
Hmm.
Boston, the other's in Cincinnati. We're in New York. So sometimes when it becomes the community, it's not always detrimental.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes it's even nice to be able to focus on something together and achieve something together while still being able to talk and check up on one another. I know that when it comes to our grad school friend group, being able to set monthly Zoom chats has
Hmm.
been so important. I mean, would I much rather be with all of you in person? For sure. And I think that's kind of where, when I say not letting it become the community, being that, that desire to have the human contact goes away
Hmm.
completely, that's when
Sure.
I think that it becomes unhealthy. I think
Sure.
having things like what you're describing with the video games is really healthy and really great. But when it becomes that person, Jake doesn't leave his room all the time because all he's doing is playing video games. That's when I think it becomes a little bit more than what it's intended for. I mean, I
Yeah.
do that all the time with my Switch playing Dreamlight Disney Dreamlight Valley. The characters are even telling me to go to sleep because I've been playing it for too long. Like that's a sign that Jillian needs to stop.
Right.
And I also think it's really great because I know for me, following social media accounts that I feel showcase people living out their faith, or I know when it comes to things that I'm trying to learn about myself. I'm not sure if I said this on the podcast yet, but in time we'll have a bigger episode on stuff like this. But even just figuring out my health journey over the years, finding out that I have PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome, following other people who are going through it and have found different vitamins who are different lifestyles or diets and stuff like that. It's been super helpful for me to follow accounts like that can show me a different way of thinking or living that could be helpful for me,
Hmm.
or faith accounts that show people praying a specific prayer, or different ones that showcase different saints that maybe I would have forgot about or didn't know about until I was following these accounts, or artwork that Catholic people are drawing that can evoke some type of emotion or prayer that I wouldn't have thought about if I didn't have that. I find that to be really, really awesome and helpful in my own faith life, getting perspective from people that otherwise I would have never met or
Hmm.
would have never gotten that from if it
Right.
wasn't for social media. So making those connections have been really helpful for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And even, you know, like in 2020 when everybody was home and everybody was in lockdown, and so we couldn't ignore certain things that popped up on social media, like the murder of George Floyd,
Right.
like the Black Lives Matter protests, like, all the social justice issues that we were, kind of forced to finally pay attention
Right.
to because we were on our phones all the time, right? And
Right.
that was a kind of a blessing of social media, is being able to learn about these things and hear about these things and understand what's going on and then find a way to educate yourself, whether that's through, different avenues or through specific accounts. But then the issue becomes, which I know we've talked a lot about, Jill, like which accounts are credible, good sources
Mm-hmm.
and which accounts are not, or which accounts
Right.
are plagiarizing some issues or some facts, or which accounts are fake, or which accounts are just
Mm-hmm.
troll accounts. Like
Yeah.
trying to sort through that becomes messy.
Yeah, it sure does. And that's the part that is the what I think the nasty side of social media is. And when you, which is why I think for us putting out the podcast, one of my greatest fears, again, not saying that I think Katie and I are going to be famous for this or anything, but being vulnerable and putting yourself out there for people to have an opinion about leaves yourself open to people giving their opinion. And you see a lot of times in the comment section of different things when someone's being very vulnerable, people are picking apart the way you look, the way you speak, what you're
Hmm.
saying horrible things, or not being very nice, and not saying you have to agree with everything we're saying, which is what we have said time and time again. But obviously there's a way in doing that that is kind, and people aren't always kind. And I don't handle that well when when people say mean things. It makes me very sad. So I was really afraid to put myself out there, knowing that. I could open myself up for ridicule. And I think we could all be a lot kinder on the internet, uh, especially when it comes to people who are trying to share themselves. Again, not saying, we talked about accountability and making sure we're, being the best versions of ourselves that we can. And if things that we see we don't like, that we're able to voice that opinion. But again, doing it in a way that is kind. And some people even make their whole shtick on being mean or combating different things for views and likes. So even another thing, making sure we're not basing our values or basing where we find our validation be through likes and opinions of others, and
Mm-hmm.
not from ourselves, from within, and from God, and from people that actually love us. I
Mm-hmm.
know a fun a fun example that I joke around about a lot is when I was in grad school, we would watch The Bachelor all the time. And this particular bachelor I did not enjoy. And I had tweeted something mean about him, something like, oh, he should, like, I hope he never finds anyone, something horrible like that. And I tweeted it. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I said that online. I needed to delete that. And I go to delete it, and it got like over 100 likes, which had never happened to me before on Twitter, or X now, whatever the heck you want to call it. And I was going around telling everyone I was Twitter famous and thought it was so cool. Moral of the story is I never took it down because it got likes, and I thought it was so cool that I got so many likes on Twitter. And in hindsight, I'm like, that is so dumb.
Yeah.
That is so dumb that I can't believe that I left it up because it got over 100 likes on Twitter. But it's so, I say that to say that I know it's so easy to be able to fall into something like that, of wanting to seek that validation of being liked by someone, or have your opinion be validated by another person. But are we leading with compassion in that?
Right.
No, I was not. And was never famous on Twitter ever again after that, which
You burned
rightfully
bright.
so. I
You
did.
burned bright.
I
When
did.
I
I
was
was,
in college, I remember the group of people I would hang out with would talk all the time, but like, what's your ratio? And I didn't get what they were talking about. And finally, I was like, I'm so embarrassed to ask, but I was like, what do you mean? And they were like, like your followers to your following. And the
oh,
idea behind it being on Instagram, if you're following more people than are following you, you're lame.
oh.
And that still is in the back of my mind. Every now and then I'll like look at my like followers versus following and I'll be like, man, I gotta unfollow like all these people so that I can have more followers than I do following.
Right.
Otherwise, this one guy from college that I had a crush on, he won't think I'm cool and I need him to think I'm cool. It's crazy how that sticks in the back of your mind. Like
Mhm.
even in the moment, even I was like, that is so dumb, guys. Come on. That's so lame. Also, like you're talking this big game about being a Christ-like human being and about
Mhm.
not caring what other people think and about, living the way of the cross. And you're over here caring about how many people are following you versus how many followers you have. Come on, guy. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah. You're so right. You're so right.
Made me mad.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope, and it's definitely tough, which I think that's why we wanted to have this conversation, to serve as a reminder, especially as we're in Lent. I used to in the past give up Facebook for all of Lent, but I think I made the point of, I run, or I help run the social media accounts for work,
Mm-hmm.
so I need them for work, so I didn't give any of them up for Lent. But I think it's important to really think about how much we're allowing ourselves to consume, what it is that we are consuming in terms of social media content, and if the things that we're looking at, are they things that are actually benefiting us?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's also, we look at the media, and whether that's body shaming or body image things or mental health things or whatever the case is, there are some unhealthy projections on the
Mm-hmm.
internet. And even if there are accounts that a person is super bubbly and positive, or, faith accounts that are saying some good things, for whatever reason, it might rub you the wrong way. It might make you feel inferior. It might make you feel whatever it is, that emotion that comes up. I'm gonna just say this because I feel like I needed someone to say this to me a couple years back. It's okay for you to unfollow people that make you sad, whether you know them or not. You do not need to follow anyone on the internet that isn't bringing joy to your life.
Mm-hmm.
So for whatever reason, whether that's hiding there, I do this a lot. I feel like sometimes it might be a lot to unfriend someone or might feel too final or whatever. I just block them from popping up on my timeline.
Mm-hmm.
That, maybe it's just like it's a me thing right now that I'm struggling with, and seeing your stuff online brings out so whatever insecurity in me. So instead of just deleting them completely, I block them myself from consuming their content.
Mm-hmm.
So if ever that changes, I can revisit it and follow, I think it's called, or whatever. But protect your peace, especially if you're spending so much time online.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure who you're following or the advice that you're looking for actually is serving you and is rooted in a place of truth and love for your good.
Yeah.
So if you needed that reminder or that permission, there it is. Don't
Yeah.
be afraid to clean house of people or accounts or whatever that are not serving you.
Yeah. I would say most of the accounts I follow, every now and then I'll go through and I'll do like a clean sweep,
Yeah.
to get less following than I have followers so that this
Ulterior motive a little.
so that the voice in my head will shut up. And I kind of have developed this pattern of like, if they are not bringing me information, news, or laughter, and they're not a friend, they're gone. Like, I don't need to be following them. Like,
Right.
there's a couple of celebrities that I'm like, yeah, that like Hillary Duff. She brings me her
Oh,
stories,
love that girl.
her posts, they bring me joy.
Right.
Love Hillary, love her kids, love her husband. I love her family. I think it brings me joy every single time.
Right.
And that's just a silly example, but
Mm.
even like a lot of Catholic accounts, I go through that exact same thing with. Is this bringing me news, information, or joy? And a lot of them are no on all fronts.
Mhm.
And if they are bringing me information, sometimes it's not always correct information. So
Mhm.
don't need you. I just don't need to
Right.
see you. This is the one place where I feel I get to curate what I'm ingesting.
Mm.
And normally I feel kind of bad about that because it's like you do need to know what's going on in the world.
Mhm.
But I get that from other sources. I don't necessarily, and a lot of times I do get that from Instagram, but
Right.
I've started to give myself that permission of if this is going to be, this shouldn't be your main source of information, A,
Mhm.
but, it's okay to just curate it a little bit.
Mhm. And I also think when it comes to what it is what you decide to post on your own account, also I think needs a bit of thought behind it because our social media accounts are an extension of us.
Hmm.
And I feel like our generation has really seen that because we're one of, we're like the only generation that grew up for the most part with nothing when it came to, like, for the majority of our lives, or at least for the young, for like until at least grade school, we had nothing. Then once middle school card started to come around is when cell phones got more popular. And because even back in the day, the cell phones, you couldn't even we were taking cameras around with us to take selfies and pictures and stuff. So we, thank God, honestly, didn't really get into, or like with MySpace and Facebook, I wasn't even allowed to have that until I was well into high school. But we had that time where not everything that we were doing was being posted online. But as we grew older, the shift really happened. And we're seeing the difference between, I really love seeing those videos of like what girls were doing in like middle
Oh
school
my
when our
gosh.
age versus middle school
The
now
dumb
with the
dances to
out.
like
Yes.
303. Yeah.
Oh God. Like, what a
The
time
like
to be
double
alive.
layered, like, oh gosh.
Yeah, the three tank tops,
Uh-huh.
the board shorts with the checkered board shorts. That was my favorite look. Oh
Talk
man.
about bullying on social media. Facebook nowadays, every time I log onto Facebook, it shows me an old status from
Yes.
like 2010. That is bullying.
I know.
Mark
What was I
Zuckerberg, all
doing?
right?
I know. I don't need to be reminded of
I
that.
don't need to be
Dear
reminded
Lord.
of how many times I posted the lyrics to Snow Patrol songs. Thank you very much. That's bullying,
It is.
Mark.
Oh my God. That's so funny. That's so true. Oh my gosh. But oh man. Yeah, I had to hide from public so many things on my Facebook because dear Lord. But all of this to say, now even with jobs, like we have LinkedIn that is another account that's an association of who we are, to the point where your employers are now going to be looking at the things that you're posting on social media. So you need to hold some type of decorum, that you need to post. I tell my students this all the time. You need to post things that you would feel comfortable if one of the nuns at Newman saw what you posted. And if you feel not and feel icky about it, then that's probably kind of where your barrier needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
But also, again, what is the point of the things that you're posting? Are you posting to show your life and to highlight these great moments of what you're experiencing, or are you looking for that validation in an unhealthy way? I know that back when I worked at the high school, would students be like, "Oh, if I don't get an X amount of likes in this amount of time, I have to delete the post."
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, "What are you talking about? That's not shouldn't be the goal of your post. If
Right.
you want to be sharing a joyful moment or a hard moment or whatever it is, doesn't matter if you get the amount of likes you got or not. Like that shouldn't be what's driving you." So just again thinking about kind of why you're posting what you're posting and the audience and who's going to see it. Because at the end of the day, unfortunately, even if your account is private, that's another thing of just people are going to see what you're putting out there. And you
Mm-hmm.
need to be really cautious of what it is that you're putting out there, the messages that you're giving, because once it's out there, it's out there.
Right.
And, even if you think you deleted it super quick, that's unfortunately not something that you can take back.
It's so interesting that like how much social media has changed since 2006,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's evolved so much. And yet the one thing that remains the same is that statement that your high school students would say of like, if I don't get this many likes in this amount of time, I delete the post. That was true when Facebook came out. My brothers were younger and I was younger, but I didn't have Facebook, like you said, until I was a little bit older. That's true. That was true of Instagram when like that became popular. That was true of Twitter when that became popular. That is across the board the one thing that of all these sites that probably hasn't changed. Like it's true of TikTok now.
Mm-hmm.
That's so fascinating. I will say the best thing that I went to the University of Dayton, go Flyers, and I was in the early childhood education program, and the best thing that those professors ever did for us was like the very first, probably honestly, I'm exaggerating, but it felt like the very first day of class in our freshman year. They drilled into our heads, you can get fired for anything you put online.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's a picture of you drinking a beer underage in 3 to 5 years, that could get you fired. If
Mm-hmm.
there's a picture out there of you smoking, that could get you fired. If there's a picture of you scantily clad anywhere on Facebook, that could get you fired. And like there was a little bit of maybe too much fear. Like I may have been a little too cautious, but I will say they were right. Like that happens all the time. And that especially, I don't maybe it happens less now, but when we were starting out in the teaching world 9, 10 years ago, that happened a lot. And a lot of people I know didn't get jobs because there was a picture of them that their employer found somewhere online. And so they didn't get that job. Or so many people I knew had to go through and just like wipe their social
Mm-hmm.
media because there were things on there that they didn't want their employers to see, which was very smart. Like it's just that
Mm-hmm.
is probably the best thing that those teachers ever did for us. Maybe a little too strict, like I said, but incredibly helpful because the internet doesn't die. And I remember having to tell my kids that, my middle schoolers that over and over again. If you put it
Mm-hmm.
on the internet, even if you delete it, it's still out there somewhere.
Right.
Someone's gonna find it. Maybe that's a myth
Yeah.
that we were told. I'm not sure, but
Or just because people
don't trust it.
screenshot.
Don't
Yeah.
trust it. Yeah, people
Mm-hmm.
are gonna screenshot it and it's gonna live forever. Don't trust other people so much.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely don't trust the robots. Come on.
Right. Because especially because then when you get older, your social media is not just an extension of you, it's also an extension of the companies or the brands that you represent. So
Exactly.
when you get that job or whatever the case is, you're now also representing them as well.
Hmm.
So just again, another thing to be aware of.
So they find that tweet from 2012, just fed a squirrel.
Right.
Like learn from Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
They're gonna pull that up someday.
Yeah, it's crazy. It really is.
So, Jillian, what are some ways that you use social media to help your faith life? We've talked a little bit about how it might hinder your mental health, your faith life, whatever. What are some ways that it could help outside of a tool for community?
Good question. One way that it has helped me, I kind of touched about on this a bit before, is following different accounts that have different perspectives on faith or offer either art or whatever it is. I found this one piece that stood out to me. It's from an account called it's a shop called Salt and Gold,
Hmm.
and it's a picture of Jesus carrying a woman, and she has a teal ribbon around her because teal is the color for PCOS
Hmm.
awareness, and it was called PCOS healer. And as soon as I saw it, I like broke down. I was like, I'm buying this literally right now. So I did, and now I have it in the house, and I see it all the time, and it's really something that brings me a lot of comfort that I would have never found if I didn't, stumble upon it online. Also, there's this another account that talks about saints
Hmm.
and just reminded me yesterday, I believe it was yesterday. Sometimes my brain gets a little muggy of what days are, but it reminded me that the novena of Saint Joseph has started.
I was gonna talk
And
about that too.
oh, no way.
Yeah,
So that reminded me of that. So now I'm praying the novena of Saint Joseph.
me
So
too.
again, it helped me remember that
Hmm.
and do that. And it has a really cute image and stuff. I use social media to really listen to people who I feel are living their life in an authentic way. And sometimes they have YouTubes as well or podcasts as well. Or I just really like to see them navigate their family life and what it's like to have kids and show up for them, but also show up for yourself and your faith and how to balance all of it. I just find all that, even mundane stuff, to be really interesting. So I like to follow accounts that really talk about that. Yeah.
That's so funny. I was gonna talk about St. Joseph as well. Everybody, St. Joseph's feast day is next weekend or next week, the 19th, a week from today.
Hey.
There is this one woman that I've been following lately that I think I sent to you guys, Jill. I don't know if you've done any research into her, but her account is called it's called the Christian Sex Educator. Sorry, Mom, maybe turn this off. But
Yes, I have.
she's all about breaking down purity culture
Mm-hmm.
and shame around sexuality. And I've just really, I don't know, I've really leaned into it. I really like what she's doing and like the resources that she talks about and experiences that she shares that it's like, oh yeah, a lot of Christian women, a lot of Catholic women face this stuff, but nobody wants to talk about it
Right.
and just how toxic purity culture can be. So that's an account that I've recently discovered that has brought me a lot of peace and joy and information and tools that I've really
Yeah,
liked.
that's awesome.
But there's also an account, Modern Saints by Gracie. She is,
Yes.
was this the account you were talking about?
Yes, I think so.
Yes. Again, no free ads, but free ads for Modern
Collab with
Saints by
us.
Gracie. Free ads for her because I love her artwork. She does these modern day icons, like iconography of saints. And I have two of her portraits. One is of the Holy Family. It's like a modern day icon of them, and one is of the Madonna and Child. And they hang in my two different offices. And I love, 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 love that artwork. And I wouldn't have found it if not for social media. But she posts all the time, like on Saints Feast days and stuff like that, which I really that account has brought me a lot of joy.
Nice. Yeah, I've definitely looked at their stuff before.
Hmm.
Absolutely. And novena cards. That's the one that I saw that reminded me about St.
Yes,
Joseph.
I do follow that one.
Yeah.
Again, no free ads.
Or hang out with us. Either one. Yeah. So I think that's a good reminder that social media is not something that we should fear, but again, just be cognizant of the way that we use it and how much we use it too. I think that's why
Hmm.
I think it's really great that at least for iPhones, I don't know about Androids, but iPhones now have this feature that you can put timer limits on the apps that you use. And that, not to say that it won't let you into an app, but you can set it that, I can go on TikTok for an hour a day and Instagram, all that for an hour. And it'll tell you once that hour is up, it'll go dark. It'll like fade out the app. And so if you go to press it again, an alert will come up to say you are over your hour limit. Do you still want to like I'm just gonna let you know you shouldn't be on here, but I'm not gonna stop you, but just so you know, you're on it. And
I,
it kind of like brings in that little like, oh no. It's like when Netflix asks you if you're still
I was
watching
about
and
to
you're
say,
like,
it's
oh,
like parental controls for millennials. Like,
yes. Because sometimes I don't, at least for me, I don't even realize, you're just scrolling. The next thing you look up and it's like 11 o'clock and you're like, what the heck? Like I've been
yeah,
scrolling for way longer than I anticipated. So
right.
even just to put those little things in check of just let's be more cognizant and instead of scrolling, let me call Katie and see how she's doing. Let me pray a novena or read
You don't need to call me.
scripture
We talk all
or
the time.
well fine, all right, I guess I
You know how
won't
I'm
call
doing.
Katie and see how she's doing. Fine.
I talk to you at least 3 times a week.
All right, fine. I'll call someone else. See
Yeah.
how they're doing.
Call someone else. I don't want to hear from
No more community. That's it.
you. Well, all that being said about social media, go follow us on ours at What Catholic School Didn't Teach You on Instagram. And you can email us at catholicschoolguilt@gmail.com. Like we said, tool for community, our
Yes.
community itself. Before we go, I want to do a quick Lenten check-in. Jillian, how you doing with your Lenten promises?
I think I'm doing okay. After our last episode where I let go of feeling bad about myself about the whole journal thing, because I still haven't found it. But I drove all the way to Tennessee, wherever the heck I was, or Virginia, wherever I was. And I had podcasts on. I was praying. I was talking to the students, and I was able to do that for a very long car ride. So
Good.
I'm pretty proud of myself for that.
Good for you.
So yeah, and all the car rides to and from our site too. I also didn't really have music on. So I mean, at one point I did because uh everyone was asleep in the van. I need to stay awake. But for
Yeah.
the most part, I think I've been doing really well with that and just trying to be kinder to myself as well in general has been really great.
Good.
And yeah, so I feel better
Good
about
to
it.
hear that.
Yeah, I feel better about it since last time we spoke for sure.
Good.
What
I'm
about
glad.
you?
Good. I also feel better about it since last time we spoke.
Good.
I realized that maybe I wasn't being kind enough to myself the last time we spoke, and that, maybe having an anaphylactic allergic reaction is going to set your body back by a week
Just a smidge.
and like give your lungs a break. But last week I got back into mindful exercise, was how I was trying to approach it of like, okay, we're not going to just exercise for the sake of exercising. We're going to do very intentional movements for a very intentional set time. And also we've been going through some like dog training with our dog Sky, and last week was the first week he was allowed to take regular walks, so we were able to do that a couple of times, which was really nice to just do like a mindful training walk with him, which I found very helpful for
Oh,
myself.
good.
Like we take him on decompression walks, which I also really find helpful for myself. It's more of a decompression for me than it is for him, I think. But last week being just very intentional about mindful exercising, and I bought a bunch of dumbbells for Jake for Valentine's Day, super romantic gift. Um, but we needed them. So I've been using those, which I don't typically use, but it slows down my exercise. So I'm not just, okay, on to the next, rush it through,
Mhm.
get it done. But yeah, I've been enjoying that and doing better with that. And instead of, because I am the opposite of you, Jill, I listen to too many podcasts. I don't. I don't like having my brain to myself, and I like having other people talking to me at all times so I don't have to think. But I've really been trying to listen to music more, so Flip of You, inspired by you. And that's been nice too, of like, oh, you have thoughts and good thoughts, and they're like not gonna hurt you. So maybe just pay attention to them every now and then.
Yeah.
Has been nice.
All right. So before we leave you, we are going to end in prayer and figured since both Katie and I are doing the St. Joseph Novena, when this comes out, it'll be only a few days in. So if you'd like to join us, great. So,
Right?
Katie, take it away.
O Saint Joseph, whose protection is so strong, so great, so prompt before the throne of God, I place in you all of my interests and desires. O Saint Joseph, do assist me by your powerful intercession and obtain for me from your divine Son all spiritual blessings through Jesus Christ our Lord, so that having experienced here below your heavenly power, I may offer my thanksgiving and homage to the most loving of fathers. O Saint Joseph, I never weary of contemplating you and Jesus asleep in your arms. I dare not approach while he reposes near your heart. Hold him close in my name and kiss his fine head from me, and ask him to return the kiss when I draw my dying breath. Saint Joseph, patron of departing souls, pray for me. Amen.
Amen. Oh, and also, this novena is typically so you have intentions normally for a novena. So usually people who pray this novena, their intentions are specifically for fathers, expectant mothers, marriages and adoption, and also for help buying, selling a home, finding a job, finding a spouse, or a happy death. So
Mhm.
all of those great things. If you or I'm sure St. Joseph would help you out for
And
anything else
more.
that
Yeah. Thank you for joining us today. We hope you have a great rest of your week.
yes, make good choices. Have a great day.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.